Now, over the last couple of years, Tokay geckos have really started to rise in popularity, which is always amazing to see. New keepers finding out that Tokay geckos aren't these awful creatures and taking the plunge into owning the Tokay gecko. However, while there is a pro of everyone getting the Tokay geckos, that also begins the con. Of course, that con being the wide range of misinformation that is now being spread through wonderful sites such as Facebook groups. I thought I'd take today and talk a little bit about the misinformation and myths that are being spread around, talk about, what they are, why they're wrong, and I guess this is really just a Reptile Mythbusters episode. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Sit back, relax, let's dive into some Tokay geckos, and roll the intro. And kicking things off, we'll be starting with the first one that is really confusing to me. I don't understand why people think this way, and that's going to be Tokay geckos are only display pets. I mean, we can just look at this into like a logistical standpoint. Tokay geckos make awful display animals. I mean, they're not nocturnal. Dermescular? No, that's the beetle. Dusk and dawn, whatever that word is, I can't remember it right now, I'm not gonna look it up. Tokay geckos only come out at the time of dusk and dawn, so throughout the bulk of the time where, the keeper is actually awake, I don't know, unless you guys are 6 a.m. to, 12 p.m., then you guys aren't really gonna see your Tokay geckos that much, and if you're not actually interacting with them or handling them whatsoever, it's kind of just gonna be an empty tank. Sometimes you'll see it laying flat on the glass, but I mean, other than that, you're just getting no Tokay action, and no Tokay action is not fun action, if you ask me. Yeah, I don't know, a lot of people are saying Tokay geckos are a look and don't touch pet. I guess that's going for their defensive nature. However, you can tame that down if you actually want to. If you have the means, the education, how to do it properly, and the time that it's gonna take to tame down, you can get these guys as tame as a crested gecko. Maybe like a gargoyle gecko, a little more spastic, but they're not gonna bite, gape, things like that, as long as it's on their terms and you're doing it the right way. I don't know, this one just really confuses me, because like, if you don't handle it, then it's never gonna get nice, and it'll always be nasty, and then you'll never see it. But people are like, you're handling it, and it doesn't like it, so never touch it again. If we use that context into any animal that ever was bad, I mean, I don't think I would hold any of my animals. The Chinese water dragon was really bad when I got it. Frill dragon wasn't too nice. My monitors, Hobbs, Hobbs, that's a whole other can of worms, I guess. At the end of the day, yes, Tokay geckos are defensive in nature. They're not gonna like you in the beginning, but that personality can be tamed out, and they can make a pretty good reptile. And not even the fact if you're saying you're stressing them out when handling, when you actually need to go in there, spot cleaning, changing enclosure upgrades, changing stuff around if you're breeding, removing babies, things like that. If you've never actually handled the animal and you have no interaction with it, that is gonna be way more of a stressor than habitualizing it and getting it used to human interaction. There are a couple subtopics in the next topic we're going to be talking about, so I'm going to kind of all lump it into one category, and that's going to be like all the myths surrounding the Tokay gecko call, bark, things like that. Number one is going to be the Tokay gecko call is so loud it's going to keep you up at night, and it's just loudly obnoxious, which just isn't true. The Tokay gecko call isn't that loud. I don't think I might have a Snapchat. I'll see if I can look in my Snapchat. I might have the Tokay gecko thing that I can post some B-roll about, but if I don't, then you don't get to hear it. Number one, the Tokay gecko call is not very loud, and it doesn't happen very often. I don't know what this surrounding misinformation is that Tokay geckos just bark and call all day and all night long. That's just not the case. Over here at DBCB's Eyes, of course, we own 20 different Tokay geckos. I will rarely hear a Tokay gecko call. They're all bunched together, males and females. We got male, female, pair, female, male, male, dad, girl, boy. They're all lumped together. I barely ever hear the call. We've got them in different rooms. Sometimes, I mean, it's such a rarity when I hear the Tokay gecko call that I get excited. Me and my wife, when we're like in the living room and we hear it, and even in the living room, which is about, I don't know, 30 feet away, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, it's faint. It's like, Tokay, Tokay. That's all it is. And so, I mean, we get stoked. It's kind of like hearing a dart frog call. Like, it's cool to hear. It doesn't happen very often, so it's always a fun experience. It's definitely not a pest. It's definitely not an annoyance. I don't know why people keep thinking this. Number 2 is going to be that male tokays are the only one that call. That has not been the case in my experience. I have both heard males and females call in different times. Yeah, it's not a male-only trait. If you hear a Tokay Gecko call, it doesn't mean that you for sure have a male. Check the pores. I have a video right here how to sex your Tokay Gecko if you're interested. But yeah, both sexes call in my experience. Number 3, and this is gonna bring us, it's gonna be a nice segue to the next topic, which I really can't stand. I hate it, it's so annoying. That's going to be that if your Tokay Gecko calls, you need to get it a mate, which just isn't true. Tokay Geckos call for a variety of reasons, and just because you hear a Tokay Gecko call does not mean you need to rush out and get the opposite sex and start breeding. That's so silly. It makes my brain hurt sometimes when people are like, my Tokay Gecko calls, I have to breed Tokays now. That is just a recipe for disaster. Ooh. And now to our next topic. And oh boy, is this a topic indeed. One that I just really don't like. It's of course putting human characteristics onto animals. Going to be number 3, that Tokay Geckos get lonely and need a mate. While it is true that Tokay Geckos do pair off and they do have some symbiosis between breeding pairs, and of course they have that parental characteristics that they do take care of their babies, that does not mean it is a necessity to get your male Tokay a female Tokay. I made another video, Tokay, why you shouldn't cohab Tokay Geckos. You can't keep pairs together year-round. It's just not a good idea. I've kept pairs together while they were producing eggs after the second clutch, and after having even the male and female in an enclosure for a set amount of time, it doesn't matter how much food you put in there, there is a power difference in all of the pairs that I have had except for 1. So that is like 17 pairs to 1. So 17 and 1 odds, I guess you can say. My male Tokay Geckos always get substantially larger and get the bulk of the insects, where my females substantially get skinnier and skinnier as they lay eggs and are able to get all the food they need. The male seems to get the most of the food, the bulk of it, no matter how much. I've put 100 crickets in these Tokay enclosures before. Males get the bulk of it, females don't get nearly enough. It's a waste of food. Please do not keep males and females together year-round. Your female will die eventually. It's just not a good look, man. I mean, yes, in the wild, they're found in colonies, in pairs and stuff, but that's when they have all the room in the world. You're substantiating these guys with a lack of space, a lack of food, compared to the wild, of course. You know, we're not keeping them insufficiently, but, you know, out there isn't the same as this 29-gallon enclosure I have them in. I don't know, man. It always baffles me when people put these characteristics on a certain species of reptiles, and yet if you put it into any other one, it would be widely inappropriate and they would get flamed. I don't know if it's because of the parental instincts of Tokays. They think it's like somehow different. So like, you know, if a bearded dragon head bobs, do you just immediately go out and get it a female bearded dragon and then just keep them together year-round? No. Female bearded dragon won't make it. It's just not a good look. It doesn't work with any other reptile. Why does everyone think that it's like the right way for Tokays and Tokays only? I think that covers it, you know. Keep them separated. They don't get lonely. They don't get lonely. I guess that's the takeaway. Tokay Geckos do not get lonely. They don't need a girlfriend. They don't need a boyfriend. Please stop. Next topic at hand, I did already talk about in this video of what you need to know before getting a Tokay Gecko, but we'll brush up a little bit on it right here. That's going to be CB Tokay does not equal tame Tokay. Got a wide variety of captive bred Tokays, captive bred and born Tokays, and imported Tokays. My best and tamest Tokay happens to be my largest imported male, and I have captive bred Tokays and CBB, even third generation captive bred Tokay Geckos that want to chew my fingers off. Captive bred does not equal tame. It's all about how you work with it, and all comes down to the individual animal itself. And the last topic at hand, something we'll brush up a little bit on, is going to be breeding Tokay Geckos is easy. I understand why some people feel this way. I mean, you don't need to incubate the eggs, you really don't need to take care of the babies until they're about 2.5 months old, so going into a shallow view of it, at face value, it does seem like a pretty easy thing compared to other species where they need a strict temperature. You're gonna need to build an incubator, ball pythons, things like that. This does seem a lot easier. However, definitely not the case. A lot that goes into breeding Tokay geckos, and there's a lot of heartache that goes into breeding Tokay geckos. It's not for the faint of heart, man. You're gonna have to keep a very close eye on pairs, making sure the female is getting enough food, that the male isn't getting an abundance of food, seeing how the eggs are looking. After a certain amount of eggs are laid, you're gonna wanna remove the male. You're gonna make sure you're keeping a close eye on the female, making sure she's getting enough food and is actually eating, getting the right amount of vitamins and minerals that she's going to need, and so on. And that's not even to mention that a lot of things go wrong when breeding Tokay geckos. I don't know what it is. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not a procedure you want to rush. You want to make sure you can get your female as big as humanly possible. It seems when Tokay geckos start breeding, they kind of just stay that size forever. I don't think it's like a stunted thing. However, I think when they start producing eggs, they just don't have enough fat storage to continue that growth. So if you start a Tokay gecko at a subadult or to an inferior weight projection, you're gonna have an animal that is unfortunately going to pass early on because they just don't have the fat to keep going. There are a lot of other things that go on, especially when you're breeding imported Tokay geckos. There's a lot of things you don't know about what's going on internally with these imported females. So there's a lot of calcium crashes. There's a lot of just individual things. I've had just strange phenomenons where a Tokay gecko would lay a clutch of eggs. I remove the male, it's good to go. Suddenly, like literally suddenly within 2 days, a female goes from looking good to emaciated and then dead the 4th day. It's a hard project. It is a hard project. You really got to be devoted to the species and really going with it, and you just got to be prepared for some of these things because while some things you can prevent with, supplementing the right stuff, things like that, there are definitely some cases, especially when you're talking about breeding wild-caught Tokays, where producing eggs just kind of seems like a death sentence for them. Hey, that is a topic that's going to go on too long, and I maybe make for another video. If you guys want to know more about that, drop a comment in there, but I think this is going to be the end of the list. What do we got? 5 myths and misconceptions about Tokay geckos. What'd you guys think? Leave me a comment. Yeah, great way to end the video, Dakota. Yeah, wild-caught Tokays die when they produce eggs. Okay, video's over. That's fantastic. All right, my husky's calling me. As always, if you guys haven't had enough of this Tokay gecko video goodness, we got a playlist right here. We got a couple of awesome videos right down there, and over here, so you hit that subscribe button, which I really appreciate. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until next time, goodbye.